Hello everyone, I am Dr. Nightmare. Throughout my years of working with patients, I have encountered stories too terrifying to be forgotten. Before we begin, write in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Let's see who dares to listen in the dead of night. Tonight, I will tell you one of them. A story that began in an ordinary, small house. The house of my patient, Ethan. Ethan was an ordinary man with a simple desire to escape the hustle and bustle of city life and find peace in the silence of nature. He imagined that a cabin on the edge of the forest would be the perfect way to relax, recharge, and enjoy the quiet. But he didn't know that he was stepping into a game with something that wasn't just silence, something that had been waiting, something that didn't like visitors. The house was cheap, suspiciously cheap, the kind of price that makes you wonder why no one else had bought it before. But Ethan wasn't superstitious. He thought he had just found a great deal. The moment he stepped inside, however, he felt it. The air was thick, heavy, and cold. Yes, you know that feeling when something unseen is watching you, but you can't turn your head because you know you won't see anything. That dull darkness that seeps into your bones. But he went into his room, put down his bags, and didn't think for a second that he might regret it. That night, something woke him up. The creaking of wooden floors echoed through the hallway, followed by soft, irregular tapping, like dripping water. Yet, in the bathroom, not a single drop was to be found. The light flickered a few times before returning to normal. At that moment, through the slightly open door, Ethan had the impression that he saw movement, a shadow retreating backward, vanishing into the darkness. The first night was quiet, perhaps too quiet. Only the occasional hoot of an owl and the whisper of the wind through the branches. Yet something wasn't right. As he slept, he heard faint, indistinct footsteps. Heavy, slow, as if someone were treading on the old wooden floor. But when he got up to check, there was no one. Just a dark hallway. Just silence. The next day, it was even worse. There was trash scattered all over the kitchen, and the door that had been firmly shut the previous day was now slightly ajar. That unsettling feeling grew stronger. He still tried to ignore it, to believe it was just exhaustion. But at night, in his sleep, he heard sounds he couldn't explain. The creaking of the old wooden floor, soft sighs, but no one there to make them. On the wall above his bed, scratches appeared. They weren't there before. 3 long marks, as if carved by nails belonging to something that didn't want to be seen. In the following days, Ethan set up a camera in the hallway. He suspected something was wrong, but he couldn't explain what. The next morning, he reviewed the footage. On the screen, the basement door could be seen slowly opening. From the darkness, a figure emerged. 2 long, thin arms with elongated fingers reached out from the void. Something slid out from under the basement door. It wasn't human. Ethan couldn't comprehend what it was. He shuddered. That feeling, that terrible feeling that spread from within, was now unbearable. Even though he couldn't believe it, he knew he couldn't stay. He fled. He abandoned the house. Although he left the house, Ethan couldn't recover. He stayed with friends, but that didn't help. He felt that something was following him, something that had stayed with him. He began to notice shadows in mirrors, in the corners of rooms. It seemed like the darkness was always spreading more and more around him. Beneath his fingernails, as he slept, he would wake up with black residue, deep scratches on his chest, and black dust left as a trace. His body seemed to be slowly fading, dissolving into something horrifying. He tried to free himself from it. He reached out to several experts, therapists, and priests, but nothing helped. Whatever had been in that house wasn't just following him. It was inside him, in every step he took, in every breath he drew. One day he decided to go back. Maybe this time he could burn it down, destroy it, and free himself forever. He took a canister of gasoline and resolved to destroy the house. He entered the house with the canister of gasoline, turning on all the lights. The house was even darker than before, the air thick. He began pouring gasoline down the hallway. He shut the basement door, but he felt something was wrong. He felt a cold breath. It sounded like footsteps, that same sense of weight, unease, as if the house was breathing. At that moment, the light went out.